Hi there, welcome to Help Solve the Case. Today we are talking about an update on the Nolan Wells case in a little bit, but also more about the coroner and medical examiner system here in the United States. If you don't know me, my name's Christine Burke. I'm a retired police detective and sergeant, current law enforcement policies and procedures expert, forensic genetic genealogist, and private investigator. And we are here talking about all things true crime, true cases, and the reality of the criminal justice system. I wanted to come on today and talk to you because there's been speculation. We have talked about a little bit originally in the Nolan Wells case when it first came out about the family's request to go and get a second autopsy, which I think was wonderful, especially if the family has questions. I mentioned in that first video that I've had so many cases where families come to me way late in the game or years later when there's been a determination made, a ruling like a suicide or a natural death, and the family doesn't believe it. And it's very hard to go back after the fact just looking at photos, if there's whatever information remains from the original autopsy, once the body's been embalmed and all kinds of things like that, it makes it very hard to make a determination. So if you have questions, it's great to get answers. And I don't think that anybody feels that if they've done a quality job, they should not mind a second opinion, right? Because everything should be confirmed the same. One of the problems that we have that most people don't realize, they think that the police somehow make the determination of the death being criminal or being a suicide or whatever. Now, while the police are there, and sometimes prosecutors may come out to the scene, they don't have anything really to do with the determination. Sometimes they're not even spoken to. I had a case, for example, with an unknown human remains case where I fully believe that foul play was involved, something was going on, but it was ruled a suicide. And that was that. The coroner made the decision, the medical examiner's office, and that's it. And that's what I think the public, I wanted to make this video today because I think the public doesn't realize how the system works, and that even if the police think that something is wrong, the cause and manner of death, okay, the cause, what caused it, and what was the manner? Was it natural? Was it suicide? Or was it homicide? That determination is made by the medical examiner's office or the coroner. It is not the police. And so again, going back later and trying to get these cases reopened is a huge challenge, especially when you don't have evidence to get the autopsy overturned, or you get a new medical examiner coming in and they're only looking at slides. In this case with Nolan Wells, I heard some media, and I'm not sure if it's actually accurate. I did listen to an expert presenting on one of the news stations talking about the fact that they are undetermined on this second family ordered, purchased, however you want to talk about it, requested second autopsy. Some of the factors were decomposition, okay, and the fact that the condition of the body, they mentioned that some of the body structures were missing, so they couldn't evaluate it. They talked about the part that I saw specifically about the neck structure, which could determine injury, they talked about the hyoid bone, strangulation, things like that. They talked about a red mark in the back of the head area, which could be some changes due to, unfortunately, decomposition, okay? And when the body is not found and cooled right away, especially in hot weather, warm weather, water, it can go sideways very quickly. And so the medical examiner or the coroner, they have to take all that into account. And it seems like everybody is being very careful here. So the second autopsy, the family autopsy, appears to be undetermined, and they are waiting for results, maybe waiting to examine other parts. Hopefully things have been preserved. This is horrible to talk about it, but there's kind of no way to really describe it. And we are still pending the official autopsy from the state, okay? And that is pending whatever they're doing, pending investigation. So at least they didn't just rubber stamp it. And we also probably have toxicology reports. And there was some scuttlebutt going back and forth about water in the lungs. Were there water in the lungs and in the body structure that would normally indicate some sort of drowning? My notes and the things that I've seen have said that the county sheriff, I believe it is, feels that it might have been a drowning. Now, is there natural drowning or is there assisted drowning? And talking about the case that I was talking about, like I said, I felt in my own case that I looked at, that there was foul play. I don't know enough about the Nolan Wells case to comment on that. And on this channel here, we talk about the court process and things that are going on, but I thought it was very appropriate to talk about the medical examiner system, because many times if you are the unfortunate victim of a crime, or one of your family members is, I don't think you understand until you have to go through it. You know, we all have relatives that die. If it's a doctor-attended death, or a doctor will sign the um, medical examiner's report, then there may or may not be an autopsy unless you request it. Okay, so nothing really gets looked at if a doctor will sign. Okay, when I used to go out on the homicide scenes and we had something that, okay, every death is always treated as a homicide until otherwise. But if we had somebody being treated for something, the first question is always, were they being treated by a medical doctor? If so, what for? And then there would be a conversation with the doctor about whether they were willing to sign or not and make it natural causes, okay? And you can just think about that, what could happen there. So if we don't have a doctor, we don't have natural causes, if we have an accidental death, a suicide, or something that could be a homicide, then, we need a better determination. Nobody is just signing the death certificate, and we need an autopsy. Okay, so that's how it goes into this process. And I wanted to show you here, let me share this with you. I asked my assistant here to come up with the most current, okay? This is the AI did pull this, so it could get it wrong. They took it from the CDC Collaborating Office for the Medical Examiners and Coroners from 2023, so it could be a little old. But the reason that I thought this was interesting, because, and let me move myself, I always forget to put myself in a good place for you guys. Okay, there we go. I thought it would be very interesting because I was talking to a police detective in my state, in Arizona, and they were saying that they only have a coroner system, okay? And we don't have in that area, a full medical examiner system like we do here in the Phoenix metropolitan area where I live. And many times, like other areas where I've lived and other cases that I've worked on, they just have a coroner system, which may not be a full medical doctor, medically trained examination. And that's what I think you guys may want to look into in the jurisdiction where you live. Okay, so this is what we pulled here. These states, and it says here, caveat, a majority of the counties, okay, have some type of medical examiner oversight. That means you have a medical person that is overseeing it. And coroner, in the majority of the counties, they're elected here in 20 states here. So you can find your state here if you want. And then in some states, other county official. Okay, and we see Nevada here. And that's one of the states where I lived, had some interaction with a person who was doing the death determination. Okay, and it is very surprising about how the system works. Now, You can have it. I don't want to say a layperson because I don't want to do disservice to what these folks do. Many people don't want to be a coroner. Maybe they have some type of nursing background or a doctor background, especially in rural areas, and they step up to do this work, which we need to be done. But the medical examiner's office, you can look up all their standards and all their training. It is just a little bit different system, more experience. And so from what I understand in the Mississippi case here that we've got going on, that there is a coroner, okay, and we have the medical examiner oversight. So the medical examiner's office in the Nolan Wells case, and again, this is just what I'm understanding from trying to interpret the system. The medical examiner's office is going to give the medical cause, and then the coroner will make the determination on the manner of death, okay? Cause and manner of death. I also had, pull this up. We've got some facts here, and that's what I was talking about. Again, could not be accurate. This is AI. The Jackson County coroner is reported to be Bruce Lind, elected in 2019. He's a non-physician, okay? But he's legally the county's chief medical examiner. He signs the death certificate, the cause and manner, right? Right now it's pending, okay? And we're waiting on the talks and maybe some more stuff. And I've read in this case that the DA's office has said that they will present it to a grand jury if they find foul play or they need to, or maybe they're just going to do it. I find that a little hard to believe if it was natural causes that they would present it to the grand jury, but maybe they've agreed to do that. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not following that case in minute detail. Again, I just think this is very interesting to understand for you all to go and look in your state to see what is going on. Because when you need accuracy, good stuff done, and I'm not saying that they're not being accurate, but when you have an expectation, when something unfortunately happens and you have an expectation for it to be done in a certain way because you've seen it on a TV show or you've seen it in a big case, and that level of service is not available in your area, again, this is why we look at the court system and we look at these processes, because you guys need to make that happen. All right. You got to enact legislation or push that forward or get funding to have the expertise that you need that's controlling these cases and being responsible for these cases, right? You need the public servants that serve the public like you want to be served. You're paying it in your taxes. You've chosen that place to live. So you need to have it to meet your expectation and your needs. And we need it to meet the needs of the criminal justice system. And again, I'm not saying that we don't have that. It's just eye-opening. And after the fact, it's really bad, okay? And it can be very expensive to go and try to get somebody to go back and look at it. All right, so in Mississippi, now we have the state medical examiner's office, okay? So they did the autopsy, all right? They're going to run the talks, and then they're going to send the findings back, right? So they're going to make the medical decision, and then the coroner is going to sign the death certificate and issue the death certificate, okay? We did talk a little bit, and again, it's not so great, decomposition, right? Because of time delay, because of the elements, things like that. So July 4th, Wells was last seen. The body was found on July 6th. We are in summer, was water, hot, humid area. Things can happen. The official autopsy was on July 7th to 22nd, which was yesterday. Okay. Normal toxicology, 4 to 8 weeks. All right. And I have a note here again from my assistant that the Mississippi Crime Lab has a documented backlog history. And backlog, I hate that word. I'm going to be doing another video on backlog. I don't think we should have a backlog on anything. And again, this is you taking a stand and participating in your county government to make sure that things go the way that you need them to go, should you need them. And it not only applies to you, it applies to every constituent in the state. And that's my opinion. Okay. So we had the independent autopsy was performed. We still have an undetermined from that, and we are in a waiting pattern as far as that. So I thought that was really interesting about the differences in the medical examiner's office. So you can take a look at that. If you have any questions, please put them below. I'll do my best to answer them. We are still waiting for answers. And again, just as an education spot, because it is really hard to go back after the fact. All right. So we need to get everything done while we can. And before I forget, I did want to ask the question because we've seen it in a couple cases. Do you think, and as we're talking about the medical examiner, maybe not so much in the coroner's office, not sure, but they have a thing called and let me see if I can get this right, medical legal death investigator. Hopefully I'll have that. I said that right because I never can get that out right. And they have investigators in the office that actually go out to the scene and participate in the scenes. Coroner's office, not sure, could have coroner's investigator, same sort of thing. Do you think, and we're going to maybe open a little can of worms here, do you think that there should be an investigative liaison between the medical examiner's office or the coroner and the police, right? Do you think, so here's the first question, do you think that the medical examiner and or the coroner should make their decision independently of what the story is or what the version is of the scene and all that stuff? Because in this case, we're going to have a medical determination and then the coroner is going to sign off. And we talk about in these cases, tunnel vision and things like that. Okay, we got a lot of cases on the burner about conspiracy theory and tunnel vision and what type of death was it really and what people are saying it and whatever. Okay, so with that in mind, to be able to make it, do we want to remove bias and just have the medical doctor, the medical examiner, or in the coroner and or the coroner, both of them, do their thing without any influence? Or do we want, and influence may be the wrong word, but I think we need to talk about tunnel vision and influence because it can happen. Do you think that they need the facts of the case, right? Should there be, for instance, a medical examiner or coroner investigator that goes out and does their own thing, right? So it's not them listening to the cops about what the cops said or what the cops told them or anything like that. They're independent expertise. They go out and they do their thing. Or should it be just the cops telling them? Should the cops attend the autopsy? Or should the cops liaise with an investigator? I'm just asking, right? Because we've seen different things in different cases about who's making decisions and who's saying what that could influence the outcome of the finding. And going back to what I said in the beginning, the finding is so important because what's on that piece of paper either allows the cops to investigate as a criminal matter or not. It's considered a suicide or not. It's a natural death or not. And that can also affect insurance and life insurance payout and things like that, benefits for the family, all on that piece of paper, that one or two lines on that piece of paper. So what do you think? Have you had an experience? Let me know. Okay. Hopefully this has been informative. Thank you for being here. I love all the likes and shares and love. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you on the next one.